when we were listening to the survivors of the boat crash in 2013, kind of just sat there on the floor listening to them, and just suddenly this tune comes into my head. Started writing it down and came up with a nice slow tune to kind of show the emotions I was going through as I was listening to these terrible stories. So I'm hoping to spread the emotions, basically kind of set a tone for what actually happens out there.
Feshkama is Misha Tea, Hamia Innernish. I work for Face Roche and I've been working with Highland One World on a Changemakers project for the past 4 days. So Face Roche is a charity organisation coming from the Gaelic word for feast or festival, which is Feish, and then the Gaelic word for Roshire, which is the area we're working in, so Face Roche. And we deliver weekly music lessons in Clarsa, harp, guitar, whistle. We run 3 main residentials a year in different locations, and we do a whole ton of other projects, and we work in schools and beyond. Personally, I'm really interested and sort of moved by what's happening in the world right now with migration. And the parallels were just like naturally there with the Voyage of the Hector, which was a piece of work that we commissioned 4 or 5 years ago for John Somerville to write a piece of music about 40 minutes long about the ship, the Hector, that left Ullapool and travelled to Nova Scotia. So there was real natural links there that we could look at.
It was interesting seeing his ideas of how things were meant to be played versus what we just kind of read off the music and took ourselves, and getting some pointers on the emotion and like the story behind all the tunes.
Music can't tell you to write how to play emotion, but the writer can, so I think that made a huge difference to what we're playing.
Today we've very much been talking about the theme of migration and how the music is a reflection of not only the journey itself, but the actual process and the psychological impact of immigration and travelling from one area to another, and how the sort of people, I suppose, felt not only on the day that they were leaving, but throughout the journey over the Atlantic Ocean, the emotions and the emotional value. And that was a huge part of the music for me, was trying to get into the minds of the passengers.
We've met for 4 days this week, just a few hours each day, and then we've been talking about what's going on right now in Syria with migration into our country, into our neighbouring countries, and why people are moving around Europe. So looking at the kind of the parallels and the differences between those things.
find it quite heartbreaking that people are put in a position where they're just fleeing, not through choice, but they're forced away from their homes and they're trying to build a life from absolutely nothing in an unfamiliar place. And that just, I find it really difficult to comprehend how hard it is for people to do that and to make a success of it. It's incredible. I think it does, and I think it's just such a shame that as a society and a world we haven't moved on from 300 years ago, and lessons are supposed to be learnt through history and we're supposed to make things better for ourselves, and it just seems to go on and on and on for different groups of people at different times, and it's such a shame.
Music is always kind of synonymous with cultural shifts. Whatever's happening politically and socially is often reflected like a mirror in the music of its time. And John talked a lot earlier with them about giving context to your music that you're writing, and also that it's important to share the stories of the music with the audience that you're performing to. So that was really valuable insight, and it made us all think about what we're writing and why we're writing it and what is sort of inspiring us to do so. So the next step will be Rudy, who's been leading the project with me. He's travelling to Lampedusa with one of the young people, Mitch, and they're going on a sort of educational journey which will have a compositional element. So we've already started writing responses to what we've been learning about. So that will just continue on when they go to Lampedusa.
How are you feeling? How are you feeling? It's next Saturday that you go.
It's scary.
Are you
It's
scared?
come so fast.
Yeah,
It's so
come across
soon.
quite soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking. And I think it is because like it's been on the news a lot, Lampedusa, and I feel like it's been on the news for negative reasons.
It's supposed to be a life-changing experience, so
I don't fully know what's like to expect.
well, you'll have experienced something that you've never experienced before. You've seen it slightly on television, zoned out possibly, but to see it and being capable of zoning out kind of change your mind towards it a lot.
Okay guys, this is us at Inverness Airport on Saturday, the 28th of September. We have just watched our flight come in, so the passengers that are currently on it will be disembarking and then we'll be getting on board soon. As we start our journey towards Lampedusa, we're going to go via Amsterdam to Rome just now, and then we're overnighting in Rome, then off to Lampedusa tomorrow. So guys, tell me, what are your expectations for Lampedusa when we get there tomorrow? The warmth. Yeah.
I don't know.
Hard to know what to expect yet.
Yeah. I'm excited to meet. I'm excited to meet like lots of new people from different countries. So
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see like what kind of people turn up and like what they expect to happen as well.
Yeah. And how are you all feeling just now, right now at this very moment?
A bit nervous.
Yeah.
Nervous, excited, a lot of emotions. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything.
What's making you feel nervous?
Probably the plane. I've not been on a plane in 8 years.
Okay.
I've not been in a plane in years, but also I don't know. I think it's a lot of not knowing what to expect as well. Like we have like an outline of what's going to happen, but still like.
Yeah, there's something about the not knowing what it is you're going towards. It can be quite nervous. Yeah.
It's exciting. It should be a good week.
Yeah. It should.
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. And how do you think you'd like to feel when we arrive back in Inverness in 7 days' time?
I don't know. Like, I guess I kind of want to feel a lot more grateful for what I've already got, but like maybe just try and like sympathise with them more. Because obviously like I do feel sorry for them, but like when we actually see them and like what they're like, it'll be hard, but like it'll be good to see and like how we can make a difference in our community because of that.
I'm really inspired to share everything that's happened to everyone around.
us, what I think is because like we're kind of going to like a holiday resort, but like kind of like less than 10 minutes away there's like migrants coming in and out. It's kind of a bit weird.
This is our first day, so we didn't do any activities today. So tomorrow we start activities at 9 in the morning where we'll get to know each other. It seems like it'll be an insightful trip, hopefully.
Yeah, it should be good.
Hopefully we get to go meet all these different people, get to have a hands-on experience.
Today we had our team building exercises and got to know each other, so we started off with some icebreakers and we got to find out what the other teams have been doing, which is quite interesting to see how it varies from country to country. Oh, we did some presentations, so we got put in our local groups, so all the ones from Scotland went together, all the ones from Italy, and we had to do a poster of everything we had done so far, but also we had to do a 1-minute presentation and basically sell what we've been doing and sell what, like, start the change on the projects, which is pretty cool. Lots of people, like from the other countries, they speak so many languages. I think there was one person who spoke 5 languages, and it kind of shows how like privileged we are to have English as our native language. So we just finished our first day of workshops at the high school. And basically, we got to meet all the other young people. There's a bug. We got to meet all the other young people today. And there's about 500 to 600 people from everywhere that have come to take part in this event. So it was very packed. But it was interesting to see so many people care and want to be included in this. And then we actually got to have like a talk from a survivor, which basically he's from Afghanistan and his father was involved with the Taliban and everything. His step-siblings wanted to push him to like go in his father's footsteps, and his mother knew that that's not what he wanted. She told him that he was going to go shopping one day, someone was going to collect him, but then it started getting late and he was getting a bit confused because he wasn't going back home. The person told him that his mum didn't want him to have to go up, like she knew that's not what he wanted, so he was being smuggled into Pakistan. And then he was telling us this whole story on how he had to pay like smugglers like £4,000 to get him to different parts, and how he managed to finally, once he was 17, go to Italy. But then he ended up being homeless for 3 months in Rome. He was so thankful in the end that he had people, like the people in Italy, let him seek asylum there. These migrants, they know that they might not get there, but they're still willing, like they'll take their week-old babies with them because they know there's no point growing up in that country that they're already in. They'd rather risk it all to see if they get somewhere. You don't always hear the stories, you don't see how it fully affects them in their lives.
Hi, I'm Mitch. I'm a piper in the Face Rosh Changemakers.
I'm Freya. I play the keyboard and the fiddle for the Face Rosh Changemakers.
I'm Amy and I play fiddle for the Face Rosh Changemakers. What was the hardest thing that you had to see on your trip?
Hardest thing I had to see?
Yeah. Like emotionally?
Emotionally, we went for a big meeting at the end, so we were all gathered up in a hall. There was a good couple hundred of us maybe, all crushed up into this tiny hall, sitting down for a good few hours. And we sat there and we listened to some immigrants who had travelled from Afghanistan and these other areas. And they told us their stories of how they travelled for, well, a very long time, some of them, and other people who had travelled and lost their families on the way and come back to this island every year in hope that maybe they're still there, still alive. That was probably the hardest thing to deal with.
What do you find most shocking, or what do you least expect?
What do I least expect? They were telling us leaving places in Africa towards Italy, the people who own the boats and send them back and forth, they would give a mobile phone to each group and send them on their way so they could communicate with the Coast Guard when they got to the next country. But they were just trying to get rid of the immigrants, so most of the time they would just be handing out old mobile phones that didn't work. So when they got to the next country, they didn't know where they were, they couldn't communicate with anyone, so they'd be stranded out on the coast. They could be sinking, they'd have no way of telling anyone, and many boats went down with no recognition of ever leaving.
It's kind of makes it an amazing thing to be part of, because suddenly, like often when we play in trad and stuff, we're playing for Kayleys or just for enjoyment or as background music. But when you're playing to tell somebody's story or telling a story of the past, or to get people thinking about how the voyage of the Hector was so similar to these boats that are happening now in Lampedusa and all over the world. And I think like it just makes it so much more important to be a part of it and to be telling those stories.
We've been playing tunes that are about stories of migration that are like hundreds of years old, and people, I feel like we're playing them and thinking about how we feel towards that, like sympathy and stuff. And I feel that some people don't always feel as much sympathy for what is going on now if they don't feel like they have any relation to it. So I don't think people realise just how many people probably come into Lampedusa and stuff, but people think about the clearances and think about how that impacted people here because it's related to them.
I think our project will, I hope that it'll break those stereotypes and makes people see how, like we see after the clearances, the people going away were seen as being so lucky, and their acceptance was so important to us, and it was expected that they would be accepted in communities and be able to start up life again, and life would be better is what was expected. But I hope that by playing these music and telling the stories and showing how similar it all is, I'd hope that it means that people realise, oh, these two things are actually very similar, and yes, we do actually hope that these migrants and refugees will get to have that second chance at having a nice life and will be accepted in communities. I think that would be the important bit of ours.
Highland clearances, we were all kind of forced out, left to our own devices to try and sort our own lives out again. So we would look for help from others to assist us getting back on our feet. But I think because that's what we did, we looked for each other for support. We should be looking for others who need support. So other people that are leaving shouldn't just be left on their own. they should be helped out like we were looking for help.
I'm glad that I heard their stories, and I'm glad that I kind of heard what they had to go through, because it gives me so much more respect for them, and it makes me realise that social media is just such a cruel place in the way that they look down on the survivors, on the migrants. We went on boats, we went to the place where the migrant shipwreck sunk, and then there was the survivors and they were on their boats, and they had a little yellow leaf and they put it in the water as a symbol of respect, and then all the boats kind of tooted their horns. It was just so shocking to see that, like, it was so close, they were so close to shore. It just breaks my heart, you know, knowing that there's so many people that just, their lives get destroyed because of things that are out of their control.
We don't realise how lucky we are to have been born and grown up where we are. Like, we've never had to think about escaping war or anything like that in Scotland. So we got back last Saturday at like 10, well, last Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, last Saturday at like 10 p.m. from Lampedusa. The day that we left, that night, it was a boat of 50 people. That was it, capsized or something?
Yeah. The camp was completely cleared out by 7 o'clock that night, and the accident happened, well, a bit later, like 10, 11 o'clock.
And 13 women died. Some of them were pregnant, and basically their bodies like laid out in coffins and everything, and the families had to go past and see if they could identify them. I think at the moment only 4 of the 13 women have been identified, and then there's a further 17 people missing. They don't know if they're dead, they're alive, like sometimes they never find out. We did the march like a few days before, and we were talking about this, and then for it to happen literally as we leave.
What was the kind of biggest thing that you learned from the trip?
How much we take for granted. Like our homes, food, water, money.
We have it like so easy. We don't have to think about half these things when they're they're literally having to like escape their countries. They're having like to take whatever they can. They literally can take like a few things, like take a few documents and money, and we have all this stuff. We never have to think about packing anything. The only time we're leaving is when we're going on holiday. We've literally got mothers like taking their newborn babies with them.
I would say the biggest kind of experience I had from the ship would definitely be the 13th of October, you know, going on the boats, because like I'm not good with boats, I can't stand them, and like the seas were so rough and I was just so scared, but like I was kind of like, I kind of felt like I had a small connection with the migrants and kind of how they felt when they were on the boats, but I know what we went through is like nothing similar at all to what they went through. And I would just say that I have a lot more kind of like respect for the survivors, because like obviously I never felt negative about them in any way, but I just feel like now that I've got a stronger connection with them, and I really want to go out and help them more.
So on the day of the march, was it? Yeah. We structured this document, which is a Carta de Lampedusa. People are going to see this document and they're going to do nothing with it. So the next day is when we started creating materials for it. So everyone broke off into different teams to do what they wanted. So we made an Instagram, people made a song, podcasts, posters, poems. One of the girls was like putting stories together.
Yeah, creative writing. Short story and things, yeah.
So that people can read this document and then they have materials to go with it, so they know what they can do.
I did a workshop about the silent hate. So it was kind of about like social media and how that portrays like such a bad image about the migrants. I think just seeing what I've seen, and like just seeing that the migrants are like normal people just like you and I, you know, they've got feelings, they've got hearts, and so many of them have been broken. And I feel like we need to stop labeling them as migrants, because they're not, you know, they are just normal people.
When we were listening to the survivors of the boat crash in 2013, kind of just sat there on the floor listening to them, and just suddenly this tune comes into my head, and I took advantage of the tune in my head and started writing it down and came up with a nice slow tune to kind of show the emotions I was going through as I was listening to these terrible stories. So I'm hoping to spread the emotions, basically kind of set a tone for what actually happens out there.
I've kind of found that by like doing my 4 years of volunteering, I found like you've had to have a lot of confidence, and to be honest it took a lot of confidence for me to say yes to go to Lampedusa, But I feel like all the people that went to Lampedusa, you know, they have such great self-confidence, and I feel like if you can have self-confidence, you know, to do anything, then you can inspire others and encourage others to kind of do more in their community and help others. So I guess I just kind of want young people to realise that yeah, the world's a scary place, but you know, if you can have self-confidence and you can be brave, then you can make a change.
You are here now, you are here, our stories. Go up to your families and talk with your colleagues, talk with friends. So that's how we can change the others' opinions, and we can challenge them.
Look for the truth, be curious, be critical, be open-minded, be passionate. You can. Identify injustice and work with others to find solutions. You can. You can believe you have the power to start change, even if it's a small step. Change takes time. You can. Challenge yourself to meet new people. You can. Share your experiences with others. You can. Arrange meetings and share stories or hear different points of view. You can. Agree to guide with facts so you can challenge perceptions. You can. Learn about human rights and inform people of theirs. You can. Join a larger movement if you don't know how to start. You can. Ask for help starting something new in your town like a pride parade or Extinction Rebellion. You can. Talk to younger people, make the next generation be aware of the issues. We've only got a few more to go, so make it really live for them in Rome. You can. Approach social media influencers to speak to their followers. You can. Work with European organisations to share resources or stories. 2 more to go. You can. Get to know the issues locally and ask a local NGO for more information and offer to help them want more. You can. Approach politicians, influence them, working together to change attitudes, policies, opportunities and laws. You can.
One, two.